let's talk about some sleep today. And the topic is talking about 7 different ways you can improve your sleep. We can talk about more stuff than seven if you like, if you have more questions on it. But before I do that, I have a couple of announcements and asks. Um, and so maybe I'll just start off with the first one. One of the minerals that makes a huge difference in terms of our sleep quality is definitely magnesium. So a lot of people who have magnesium deficiency sleep really poorly, and then when they correct that magnesium deficiency, everything from the quality of sleep to having like pains and aches during the night, and then just like a sense of restfulness, bowel movement, just a lot of things start improving really quickly. So just heads up on this, we have what we call the Magnesium Rotation Kit, which is using different kinds of magnesiums throughout the day. And I've got them here, and we've got a promotion going on for $10 off the kit, and then that ends on the 21st. The code for that is MAG for sleep. That's the code. And Kamalani, if you can drop that into the chat. And so it basically contains magnesium. My preferred one in the morning is Mag Energy. That's magnesium malate. It's a really great way of energizing and recovering from exercise. It's in a malate form. And then you have magnesium replenish, which is magnesium glycinate, the most highest bioavailability of this kind of magnesium. You can take it at night as well. By the way, do not take Mag Energy at night because it's very stimulating. You might not fall asleep. I've learned it the hard way. You have part of it is also magnesium citrate, which is really great to take at night and then gives you a really nice bowel movement. And then we also have quick magnesium, which is a topical kind of magnesium. Actually, kind of saved my butt. Just a couple of weeks ago, I had a knee injury from playing tennis, and I've not played tennis in over 30 years, or almost 30 years, and pulled my knee. And so I've been applying quick magnesium, and there's been really helping a lot just because it is a very relaxing kind of a mineral. So if you want to get the whole kit, you have the opportunity to save $10 on the whole thing. And so Mac for sleep is the coupon code to use at the checkout. Okay. One other thing I want to talk about before we dive into talking about sleep, because this is one topic that's been kind of like actually getting sleep off. It's been stealing sleep away from me is obviously the stress that I personally feel because of what's happening in Ukraine. I think it's one thing to watch it on TV and see the atrocities of it, but it's another to have family members hosting the refugees. And so my whole family, my sister, for example, is hosting 7 people in her house, and it's 4 women and 3 kids. 1 woman is pregnant, and so it's and hearing their stories and all of that, it's obviously tragic. So many people have been asking me, I've been getting text messages from friends asking how to support the cause. And so I want to share with you 2, I think, really worthy organizations that are doing wonderful work. One of them is actually my old friend from Shanghai days, a professional chef, works at the World Kitchen Central. And so it's an organization like the way you have Doctors Without Borders is actually chefs and volunteers who work for that nonprofit cooking. They're preparing 300,000 meals for the Ukrainian people right now. They're doing that out of Poland, and then bringing it over to the border and feeding people. So we have 20,000 refugees living at the Warsaw Central Station. Warsaw is the capital city of Poland. So it's it's almost unthinkable, right, to be experiencing something like this in this time of our history. We thought that World War II was the last time atrocities will happen. But anyway, we all can play a big role here. And so if you feel compelled to support them in any way, the Kitchen Central, World Kitchen Central is one link. And so Kamalani is going to post the link over to on our chats. And so you can check it out. If you're on Instagram, just check out the URL is, let me just give that to you, WCK, so worldcentralkitchen.org, WCK.org. The other one, which is really important, is, as you probably know, men are above 18 are not allowed to leave the country, and they've been drafted to fight. So it's only women and children. who are leaving the country. So there is this really nice organization called Save the Children. And so the URL is savethechildren.org, just really as simple as that. And they take donations as well. It's a wonderful organization. Part of the reason why I like supporting more grassroots level sort of nonprofits is because larger nonprofits tend to have very heavy overheads. And so a big part of your donation go towards paying for somebody's bungalow in Nairobi, whatever. I'm just giving, like a stupid example here, but you know what I mean. So these kind of nonprofits have incredibly low overheads. And so most of your donation would actually go towards the food, for example, or supporting the children, providing them with all the aid at this point, okay? So, yeah, so let's, okay. So let's dive into talking about sleep today, since this is what we set ourselves to do. I certainly feel that the quality of my sleep has significantly diminished given the course of events around the world, especially because I get a lot of updates from my sister on a daily basis. And so that's been extremely troubling. And so, that kind of is a reminder for me and for many of you is that, we can do a lot of really nice things for ourselves, but if you're going through a stressful situation, stress will kill your sleep, period. I mean, that's a given. So there's various different techniques that you can implement to calm yourself down before sleep. So we can talk about that. But let me know, as you're listening to this, we've got 7 things to talk about. But however, if you want me to talk about more, I will. But I would love to actually hear from you guys. Like, what are some of the sleep challenges that you're having that is you're struggling with in terms of your sleep? Are you like waking in the middle of the night, you can't go back to sleep, or you can't fall asleep, you've got a racing mind? Like, what is going on? So let me know about that. Kamalani, so let's put out the first one. What's the first thing that I want to talk about? All right, eliminating coffee and alcohol. So you see the ring that I'm wearing on my index finger here is called Aura Ring. And you don't have to have an Aura Ring to do what I'm going to share with you in a second. It's got all these iodes on the inside and sensors. And anyway, and it gives me a report on my phone on how my sleep went in terms of deep sleep, as well as REM sleep. And so, I've written an article about how to fix your sleep after 45. And so you can find that on our website, hormonesbalance.com. Kamalani is also going to pop in the URL for that. So there's a lot of things in that article that you can do. But the point is that, one of the wonderful things about sleep is that you can actually control a lot of it. That's like one of those things that we led to believe that it's either you do a sleeping pill or nothing is going to help you, which is actually not really true. There's a lot of things that you can actually do. You might not be finding the connection right now. So my Aura Ring, I've been doing, in order to write that article, How to Fix Your Sleep After 45, it took me I did about 6-7 months of experimentation. And for me, alcohol was one of the biggest triggers of stealing my deep sleep. So in deep sleep, this is certain things happen during deep sleep, certain things happen in REM sleep. The point is that you need both of them to be fairly evenly accomplished during a good sleep. And so a good night's sleep. So, I might get a pretty decent REM after alcohol, but my deep sleep from a regular hour and a half, it will drop down to 40 minutes. And then the result of that is I wake up and my cognitive functions are not as good. I feel a lot more tired. I tend to crave caffeine or have caffeine for the rest of the day because my mind is just not as sharp, and I troubleshoot in business and solve problems all day long. And so I use my mind a lot. So with deep sleep, definitely I can feel the difference there. And so having that glass of wine that unwinds you before going to bed, it might temporarily make you feel a little bit better. But the result is going to be that your deep sleep is going to suffer, and that's going to result in craving sugar and caffeine the following day. So something to consider. I think different people respond to alcohol differently. So you need to be mindful of that, is that we all are genetically different. Our liver efficiency can also differ. For people who have a very clean liver, they will metabolize metabolize alcohol really quickly. It might not be very impacted. Think of it this way, like, I don't know about you guys, but like when I was in college, I mean, we will go out with friends and have 5, 7 tequilas and have like crazy nights out partying because it was cheap alcohol during the week. And then I'll wake up the next morning and go to school and be having no problem, right? I can't do that. I mean, probably have 2 tequilas and I'll feel it the next day. So it is the function of the liver to be able to metabolize that alcohol. And so it's really doing a bit of an experimentation and see whether do you sleep better when you don't drink alcohol, or maybe have an afternoon, like on the weekend, right? Have it like say with lunch if you really need to drink, but not at night. The other thing is not all alcohol is the same. High histamine alcohol, such as beer, for example, cheap quality wine, would tend to give you more problems versus high quality alcohol, such as vodka, whiskey, the top shelf alcohols. People seem to tolerate that better. So, but at the end of the day, it's not a given. You need to do a bit of experimentation and then see for yourself what is your trash point. So now about coffee, and this is actually not just coffee, but caffeine. A lot of people don't realize that you can actually caffeine can be so stimulating for you that you feel the difference, you feel the uplifting effect for the first 2-3 hours. But a lot of people don't realize that actually it has an ongoing long-term effect on your energy levels, and it actually, what it does, it blocks the receptor in your brain that actually tells your brain that you are tired. And so that's part of the reason why coffee is used as a way to stay awake, not just energize you. So you need to figure out what is your trash point and which time you need to stop caffeinated drinks in order to sleep better. For me, the very latest is 3 p.m. If I have anything caffeinated afterwards, I will not be able to fall asleep for a long time. For some people who are more sensitive to caffeine, it could be as early as 12 p.m. is your last cutoff time. So you need to, again, do a bit of an experiment for yourself. And when I talk about doing these experimentations, do it one at a time, because otherwise you don't know whether is it the coffee or is it the alcohol that played a difference in the quality of your sleep. From my own experience, for me, I don't drink coffee, but anything caffeinated has to stop before 3 o'clock. Typically at 2 p.m. I would drink matcha tea, and that would be my last caffeinated drink. And then alcohol is either in the afternoon, or I just don't drink at all. Because I'm not willing to compromise my sleep. So Krista is asking, what about decaf coffee? No, that's fine, because it doesn't contain as much caffeine. It does contain a little bit. But again, like if you're drinking decaf coffee before sleep and it still does have a bit of caffeine and you are sensitive to caffeine, it might impact you. I was dating a guy one time that having even a decaf in the morning, he could not sleep at night. So, I mean, this is like an ultra sensitive person, but they do exist, and you need to honor that if that is you. All right, let's move on to the second tip, meditation. And I want to add on to the meditation also deep abdominal breathing. So I will share with you, but this is for the first time in 14 years. I had a panic attack a couple of nights ago. I'm pretty sure I know what brought it on. And it was a combination of stress, something that's happening right now that's been very stressful, and then combined with everything that's happening in Ukraine. But it's also, I had a kombucha with a bit of vodka in it in order to take that edge off. And so I broke my own rule. But the problem is the kombucha is extremely high in histamine. Histamine is a stimulatory kind of neurotransmitter. And so and then combine it with alcohol. I just had this major flurry of a panic attack, racing heart. I just felt like I drank 20 coffees. So one of the things that I did was I did take a couple of like DAO enzyme and GABA, and just to calm everything down. It wasn't working too well. But one of the things that I started doing was deep abdominal breathing and a bit of meditation together with it. Now, you know yourself, and again, it's kind of like subject to experimentation. It's up to you whether can you sit down and be calm when you are, going, for example, through a stressful time. I personally can't, and so some people can, and so that's great. You can try that out. However, what works for me is that deep abdominal breathing is the 4-7-8 technique, where you breathe in for the count of 4, you hold your breath, and you breathe it into your abdomen. Now, and then you hold it for 7 seconds and you slowly exhale it to the count of 8. I could not do the 4-7-8 completely because I was so wound up and I was in such such a panic attack mode that I wasn't even able to do that, but I was trying my best without like hurting myself. The point is that when you do deep abdominal breathing, what it does is that when you're breathing into your abdomen, it activates what's called the vagus nerve, VAGUS. The vagus nerve is this huge nerve that starts at the bottom of your neck here, of your skull rather, the top of your neck, and it goes all the way down and branches out throughout your body, and it connects pretty much to everything: your heart, your brain, your liver, your pancreas, and so it connects pretty much every single organ. And so when you're in times of stress, right, you produce a lot of cortisol. The vagus nerve is there to compensate, but one way to stimulate it and to kind of ask your body to go more into the parasympathetic nervous system, the calming down part of the system, is to breathe deep into the abdomen, and that's what engages the vagus nerve, and you may find yourself suddenly feeling a lot calmer. It took me about 3 hours to come out of that panic attack, and I think it was a combination of taking the DAO enzyme to degrade histamine. It was the GABA to calm down my brain, and then lastly doing the deep abdominal breathing and just sitting quietly and reframing my thoughts, saying this is not the end of the world, I'm okay, it's just a few things that are happening, right? That really helped a lot. So yeah, okay. Let's move on to the third tip. Turn down the temperature in your bedroom. So one of the ways that, especially for many of us who are in that perimenopausal, menopausal phase, right? How many of you here are having hot flashes and night sweats? And that's part of the function of it, is that when our estrogen levels drop, our body is not able to regulate as efficiently, and so it is not able to dilate our veins and capillaries. And so what happens is that we get a lot of blood circulating everywhere, and so this is when a hot flash happens. We get this flush, we get this night sweats, right? So one way to actually increase our quality of sleep is to bring down your body temperature. And you can do that by, for example, taking a very hot bath before going to bed. And I know it's counterintuitive because you're like, wait, I'm already so hot, why would I need a hot bath? But interestingly, what a hot bath does is it brings the heat out from the inside of the body to the surface, to your skin, and then your body temperature actually drops after that. So it's a really interesting phenomenon. That's why, how many of you here feel better after a hot bath? Furthermore, if you add even like magnesium into your bath, right? That is even an additional benefit. You are bringing your core body temperature down, as well as you're giving yourself that magnesium that I talked about at the beginning. That is just a wonderful addition. So that's so another way you can bring down the body temperature is to reduce the temperature in your room. How many of you here have felt like, whenever you have like really nice, cozy comforter on top of you, right? But you have like a cold room. Like I live in Colorado right now. We had another dump of snow, another foot again. So much for spring here, right? But I love to open up my windows, just like, even if it's just a tiny bit. And so I have my heater running, but I also have that cold air coming in, so that to bring that body temperature and to bring the temperature down in the room. And I feel like I always sleep a lot better when the room is cold. How many of you have observed that? So this is another really good tip that for a lot of people that really helps. All right, let's bring on tip, I think is the fifth one now. Kamalani, reducing blue light. So this is a huge one. If I was to name, besides alcohol, the next big thing for me, especially in the evening hours, is the blue light. And so looking at a computer, looking at a phone before going to bed. So let's talk about what is blue light. Blue light is something that gets emitted by LED screens, as well as, so it's your television screen, it's your computer screen, it's your iPhone, your iPad, right? And the problem with blue light is that it basically interferes with your pineal gland. Your pineal gland is like right inside your brain. It's basically your eye chakra here, right? Your pineal gland is what produces melatonin. The pineal gland can only produce melatonin when you are when it's total darkness, or if there's significant darkness. Guess what? Blue light interferes with the quality, with the ability of the pineal gland to produce melatonin in a huge way. And for those of you who think like, oh, well, that's fine, I'm just gonna, I'll stare at my computer and I'm just gonna go and walk, and I'm just gonna go and take some melatonin. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work. And any one of you here who've been having sleeping problems, you know that melatonin kind of maybe works for the first 3 hours, then it stops working. There is slow release technology with melatonin. I personally have tried it, doesn't work. For a lot of people, it just doesn't work. I'm not sure what it is. I suspect that a lot of times what happens is that, how what we natively produce, it's not going to be always the same as popping a pill. So one easy fix when it comes to, fixing or reducing your blue light is really simple. There's a number of different apps, such as, for example, Flux, Lux, that you can install on your computer. I personally have found that it helps some, but not entirely. So what I've done is I actually have blue light blocking glasses, and you can easily get them on Amazon. There are those clear ones that, like, if you're watching a movie, it does not make everything look pink and rosy, which can be kind of weird if you're watching like a really scary movie and everything looks really pink. Just kidding, I don't really watch scary movies, but you know what I mean, right? And so the clearer ones, the clear glasses that block blue light, only block it at about 30-40%. I personally have found like that's not good enough for me. And then you have those ones that are orange in color, and those will be blocking 70 to 80% of the blue light. So I just suck it up and say, I would rather watch a movie that looks pink, orange, but have a good night's sleep and then have a fantastic day after, because it's not just the sleep that matters, right? It's like how your day unfolds the following morning on, it's what matters. And that's when you might find, for example, that when you had a poor night's sleep, immediately there's certain things that are, I think, immediate and non-immediate, right? So immediate things that you feel right away, it's like you're tired, you're moody, you're cranky, your brain is not functioning the same, you're craving sugar, you're craving a lot more caffeine throughout the day, you're just not yourself, you're not very productive, not very effective, you don't like yourself. Versus, the long-term effects is also has a huge hormonal effect. It has an impact on your liver. There are studies showing impact on Alzheimer's, and people, for example, with Alzheimer's get almost no deep sleep. And the list goes on: cardiovascular health, weight gain, et cetera, et cetera. So really huge, a real big deal. So reduce your blue light. That could be a real life-changing for so many of you. When should you do that? It's, again, you need to figure it out for yourself. For me, I always thought it was like, because I remember reading about it and it was recommended to do an hour before sleep. I've realized that an hour is not enough for me. And so, it is also like in winter, right? When the days are shorter is different from summer. So it might be different too. But I have found that for me, the best thing is 3 hours prior to sleep is to put on my glasses and then or just basically not look at a computer, which a lot of times is not quite that easy. Okay, let's look at tip number 6. What would that be? Drink herbal tea. So certain herbal teas or certain herbs specifically have a very calming effect. So has any one of you here maybe tried some herbs before and you feel like it has helped you? So a couple of those that really helped me is, and they're very well known to be, actually, let me talk about herbal strategy first, because it's not like you might say, well, I just take these like valerian or passion flower or California poppy, right? Those are like heavy sedatives. And so they will knock you out. Yes. However, it's a really smart strategy. Somebody says chamomile tea. Yeah, that's a good one. It's a really great strategy to combine your sedatives with also calming herbs that you can actually drink even throughout the day, but they just calm you down. So the reason is that when you are just knocked out, but your brain is still running crazy, you're going to end up having either a troubling dreams, or you're going to be having you're going to wake up 2-3 hours into your sleep, and then you can't go back to sleep because your brain is racing. So what is really good is to then do a little bit of, a bit of like a chamomile, lemon balm is really amazing. It's just calming everything down. Those are like the two classical, very easy to obtain. kind of teas, and then you can combine it with linden tea is actually another one. Linden is also a calming kind of tea. I sometimes drink it throughout the day. It's not a sedative. And then you have the sedative kind of herbs, right? Like I mentioned, valerian, which, by the way, valerian is can be a very stimulating herb for some people. So in traditional Chinese medicine and herbalism, they see it as a very heaty, kind of hot provoking. It's a very hot kind of an herb. So people who tend to be always very hot actually get stimulated by valerian instead of enjoying the sedative effect. So be careful with valerian. And then the other one will be California poppy, which is my favorite. I respond really well to it, as well as let's see, what is the other one? Passion flower is another really great one. Mulungu is somebody's mentioning. I don't know what that is. Reishi can be calming, yes. So there's a really calming, nice mushroom. So that's yeah. So you can either buy it in a store. I personally prefer to buy herbs in the dry form and then mix them myself and make, like, I have something called sleepy tea that I mix myself, and I use loose leaves and then blend it myself. One of the challenges of buying tea bags is that the leaves are already very cut up, and so they get oxidized. They're cut up so that when you drop it into a cup of tea, into a mug with hot water, it infuses really quickly. Yeah, so there's a benefit of speed, a speedy infusion. However, anything that gets cut up, oxygen gets into it and it loses its medicinal properties. So, and the problem with this tea bags is that is also they can get they also bleach a lot of the time. You don't know how long it's been on the shelf, etc., etc. So anyway, but do whatever works best for you. So let's look at the last one, last tip: eating light and early. So this is another really beneficial tip I think you guys could try, and that is, if you're kind of working it backwards, like what time do you go to bed, right? Or what time do you want to go to bed? My hours is somewhat shifted, and so the older I get, then I'm noticing I'm becoming a really early bird. So I really like getting up at 5, and I feel like from 5 to 8, I do my best work, and then I take a break and I go back to work, kind of a thing. But in order to wake up at 5, my best time is to start winding out at 8 or 9 p.m. I'm actually already asleep, right? That's my cycle. So figure out what is yours. But the point is that if I'm going to sleep at 9 o'clock, I want to have dinner at least 3 to 4 hours prior to going to sleep. So at 9 o'clock, 3 hours prior to that will be at 6. I typically have dinner about 4 or 5 o'clock because I only do 2 meals a day, a brunch, and then a meal at 4 or 5 o'clock. And the importance of that is that your digestion, as it's digesting your food, is actually doing a lot of work. A lot of the vital energy in the body gets taken in order to do the digestive work. And it's a lot of work, you guys. It's the production of the enzymes, the production of the stomach acid, and then the peristalsis, right, which is the movement of the food through your intestines over to the colon. It's a lot of work. And so the sooner the less you overload your body with heavy foods, the more vital energy can go into restoring of your nervous system, of your detoxification system. And so who here have found, like, when you go to bed with an earlier, lighter kind of a dinner, you feel better, you sleep better? I've done it many times before when, because of circumstances or my own stupidity, I kind of like have a big meal, with like a big steak or whatever, and a glass of wine, and I have this horrible, the worst sleep, right? If you have no choice because, let's say you're in a relationship and you guys do dinner 8 o'clock and there's just no other choice, then one of the things to do is to, if you're having a dinner at a late hour, then make sure it's just a lighter meal instead of having like a big ass steak that is so hard to digest. Taking some, and if you are doing like lots of protein for dinner, then having some digestive enzymes with it in order to break down those protein, and some maybe HCl, betaine, if your digestion is kind of sluggish, can also help you move things and digest things a lot faster. Okay. So those were my 7. Taking a hot bath. Yes, I think we talked about that. Taking a hot bath. So the hot bath will reduce your body temperature. So those were the 7 tips we have for you for today, you guys. Do we have like a whole list, Kamalani, of those that we can just do like a little wrap up? Let me see. So we had, yeah, anyway, so what are your, and so many of you here have mentioned that you are waking in the middle of the night, you can't go back to sleep. So I would highly suggest for you to try the 7 things that I mentioned today and see whether that improves. Because one of the things that happens is that you can sleep, but you can't sleep enough, and so you can't sleep through, and that could be because of a lot of the things. So for example, one example I want to give you is a lot of people produce too little melatonin to keep them through the night. And that's because of the blue light, watching at a computer screen, looking at your phone until very late at night before going to bed, and that will interfere with the quality of your sleep. So those are simple things that you can do to really improve and get results really quickly. Brenda is saying, yes, light meal and early works good. Yeah, I certainly have felt that as well. Let's see. What other question? Kamalani, do you want to just pop any questions if we have any? And I'm just going to quickly look through Instagram, see what we have there. No, it doesn't, is the short answer. One type of magnesium, let's not talk about hair loss today. I just want to be really focused on sleep. So Myra is saying, I have a hard time falling asleep. I have hard staying asleep. My brain starts going at 100. Yeah, so this is where, so also, hey, you guys, one other thing, like if you've tried many of the things I already talked about, check out the article that I've written on how to fix your sleep after 45. And that is something that has a lot of different points in there. And my recommendation is for you to try one thing at a time and figure out what really works for you. Because we all are different. Some things impact one person, doesn't impact another person. Like, for example, doing meditation for me makes no difference. But there's a lot of other people who meditate and they feel like their quality of sleep has completely changed. So we all very, very different. You need to figure out what works for you. But I really want to encourage you to dive into this and improve your sleep, because it's going to have long-term impact on your hormones, just how you show up. A lot of, just to give you also an example, one other example before we wrap up today, one of the hardest clients I've ever had was when I lived in New York City, where people are, I think, by nature, very driven, very active, very excited about life and want to do 100 things every day. And rest is considered for lazy people. And so I remember working with this woman who wouldn't even give herself time for lunch or take a break or have any downtime during the weekend. She was constantly running from one thing to another, whether it was fun or work. And she was sleeping only 5 hours a night, not because she couldn't, but because she just had too many things going on. And so I said to her, then when we did cortisol testing, her cortisol was very elevated. So I said to her, you need to learn to calm down. And so we did an experiment with her for a week of sleeping better. And mind you, her biggest problem was she couldn't lose weight. And so what happened was, just by correcting her sleep for that 1 week, when she really made arrangements to get good quality sleep, this was the first time in a couple of decades that she dropped 2 pounds, by just changing nothing else. So, and so that was, it was a difficult client, because she always she wanted results just like that. And I'm like, this is happening in a week. Imagine what would happen before. I don't know whether she continued or not, but the point is that it just shows you how quickly your body can respond when you get good quality sleep, and you can even lose weight with that. So, which is pretty cool. All right, you guys, I think that's all I have for today. Check out the article if you are looking for more tips. Always remember, do one thing at a time, because otherwise it's really hard for you to know what impacted you. And just a quick reminder, we have the Mac for Sleep code for $10 off our Magnesium Rotation Methods kit, which is the 4 different types of magnesiums that you take throughout the day to get really wonderful results with that. And it does help with sleep as well. Magnesium is super helpful for sleep. So is progesterone. I talk about it in the article as well. That's another one. All right. Well, thanks everyone for being here today and taking care of your sleep. And I'm so curious to know, what are you going to try tonight? I hope you do. All right. Thanks everybody. Bye for now.